Hi, everyone. Tonight we have a really interesting guest. It's Ryan. Ryan created and was the founder of the Africa Electronic Sport Association. For me, I think electronic gaming is often seen as something outside of the school space. But Ryan is going to share with you today about how to bring it in and why it can be really beneficial to your learners and the children that you teach to really get them engaged in electronic sports. Yes, there are queries around it, but I think it's a really good idea to get the children involved. So let me introduce you to Ryan. So hi, Ryan. Welcome to this evening.
Hey, Karen, thanks for having me.
So tell us a bit, where did this idea come from? Why did you want to create an electronic association?
So, look, I've been a gamer my entire life. It started off with chess. Those of you that have kind of read my profile or know a little bit about me, my gaming days started back when I was 6 years old playing chess. I hated the game. My parents forced me to play it though, but it's turned out to be one of the best things that I've ever kind of pursued in my lifetime. With over 10,000 hours, I've coached, and it's pretty much given me the foundation from many aspects in that respect. Um, that gaming then turned into more console gaming. Excuse me, I'm getting a call here. Um, I'm getting, getting back into it. I started off just playing simple video games, very antisocial, with the old CRT TV screens, as you might have remembered. And
Yes.
that then evolved from that into PC games. And my dad had one of, the very early computers, the 486, and
Yes.
with very basic games that we used to play. And that there was when we had battle chess, where the pieces would come alive, and I would then be able to play against the computer and really
Yes.
have my own time with it without someone getting frustrated that I'm not doing the right thing or I'm not, understanding correctly or whatever the case is. So next thing I know, I'm winning tournaments at the age of 9, 10, 10 years old, and my parents sent me off to find a coach. We never knew that there was such a thing really, other than our school coach. That then evolved further into more computer games later on down the line, in my sort of 12, 13 years old, and it kind of has just stuck with me since. And if I wanted to play computer games, I needed to build my own computer. If I wanted to play with friends, we had to build our own network and figure all of that out. Um, so it's really given me this foundation in life as well as in my career, where, as you would have known, I worked for Intel Corporation, and I never studied IT. Um, I never studied sales. I never studied any of that sort of thing within that field, and yet I managed to get the job and was one of the youngest employees, or the youngest employee at that time, to ever work for Intel Corporation back then, and that was in 2008. So why I started this basically was people do get older, and life does eventually become real. And essentially, what that means is, during my competitive days, I mean, I played amateur to semi-professional, you could call it that, for many years from 2005 all the way up to 2013. And it was taxing because during peak hours or peak times during competitions and so on, I mean, I was
Yes.
playing about 60 hours a week. I mean,
Oh,
that's more
wow.
than some people do in a job. So after work, I'd leave work at 5, 5:30. I'd go to the gym, hour, come back, quickly eat, warm up, 8 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock at night. We're playing matches or practicing every night during the week. And then weekends was as much as we could. And eventually I was traveling quite a lot with work. As you know, you knew me from my career back at Intel. And I was traveling quite a bit, not just within South Africa, but into Africa a bit as well, um, in the education sector, which then became the public sector, which gave me this sort of insight into this whole around sustainable development goals, and where the actual needs are from an
Yep.
education and fourth industrial revolution perspective. And then I was thinking to myself, esports has a major role to play in education. I feel I'm a well-rounded individual, I would say, intellectually, emotionally, that sort of thing. And I've done well in my lifetime, in my career, because this thing called gaming and has given me the opportunity and the platform to express myself and to explore those things without it feeling like, oh, why am I studying this or why am I learning this? I learned things because I wanted to learn things, because I had to if I
Ah,
wanted to play. So it kind of came about. And through my years of now starting AESA, since leaving Intel at the end of September 2018, I was on my own. And yeah, then I was like, well, where are the gaps? What needs to happen? What can I do to help grow this thing called esports? It's growing elsewhere around the world, and yeah, it's been doing it, there's been an upward trajectory in terms of its growth locally in this country as well as in Africa, but not to the likes of where Europe and Americas and Southeast Asia's are. So I
yeah.
was thinking, well, where are the gaps and what do I see that could potentially bridge? What could I do to bridge that gap? So essentially, it's around, partner engagement, sponsor engagement, public sector engagement, private sector engagement, um, and trying to demystify the somewhat whatever questions there may be about it, the negativity that might and the stigmatisms that are around it. Like the first thing that comes to mind always is addiction, which is a real
Mm.
thing, no doubt. But you'll never hear a parent complain that their son or daughter is playing too much rugby or netball. There's no such thing as, no, they're addicted to rugby, and then it's ha ha ha, like, oh, but they're such a great player. It's never about, with games, like, oh, they're addicted to games, yeah, well, we never see him or her, so you'll never hear that with traditional sports or games. So we had to start changing the narrative, or I at least tried to start changing the narrative, engaging with the local ecosystem partners, and some non-partners and just general ecosystem stakeholders to give them, whether I gave it to them directly or indirectly. I like to believe that I have had some sort of intrinsic change in their narrative, their mentality around how to position esports. Instead of all about gaming, it's all about gaming, and we have the best team. So they would approach an Intel or a Dell or a AESA or whoever and say, we have the best team, you must sponsor us because we can get you thousands of views. That doesn't happen here. Um, that's more, and when they show, I can just imagine showing pictures of, you know stadiums filled to capacity with 60,000 people watching 10 nerdy geeks playing a game. It doesn't happen here. But it's not to say that we can't nurture at grassroots level who and what we have here to get them there eventually,
So I just
without.
want to pick up on what you've said in terms of yourself and when you were a child and even growing up now. If you've got a child at home who really wants to do gaming, what would your advice be to those parents?
Well, I have a great article that I can share. It's on LinkedIn. There are
Okay.
eight sort of things, but I'll paraphrase a number of the options. Like, think of it like traditional sport. Okay, so your child is playing a lot of soccer or with a tennis ball or a netball or whatever. What do you naturally do? You would recognize, well, you play with them, firstly, but most parents are like, oh, I'm not really into games, or I don't like games, or I'm not good at it, so they don't play it because they don't want to feel foolish or silly or whatever. But they do anyway with a soccer ball or a tennis ball, and I doubt they're just as good as that than with a controller in their hand,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So one is to participate, to get yourself involved. Next thing
I
is
think
to
that's with
obviously
anything with our children. If we know what
anything.
it is and learn about it, I think that always has an impact.
Once you've learnt about it, then you need to ask yourself the question, like, well, are they any good? Are they good at cooking a soccer ball? Well, maybe we'll send them to a club, or maybe let's see if they make the school team, which is another segment which we need to chat about. Is we need to get more schools involved, but
Yep.
that's something else. So does your school facilitate esports? A lot of schools are now starting to, but they don't have perhaps the accessibility because the technology is quite expensive, as a cricket field or a rugby field or a tennis court
Yep.
would also be expensive to put down. The same can be said with an esports lab. Um, So once you've identified perhaps if your child has talent, do they perhaps have any inclination to compete? Because you can be good at something, but you're not competitive. It's like you're good at kicking a soccer ball, but you don't really feel like playing on the soccer team.
So are there
Um,
different levels in esport, just like in conventional sport, where you
of
could just
course.
play it for the sake of playing it or otherwise become competitive?
Yeah, so I mean you always get I mean if you join anything with a team that involves a team or a game, a game is by nature competitive. A game is like soccer. No, like soccer is a game, but the game is defined by its parameters. Okay, you have your forwards, mids, and backs. You have the goalpost. You have the lines that you have to stay in. No hands on the ball. These are the rules. You stay within the rules and you score, and that is how we play the game.
Yeah,
The same thing can be said with any game. Like most games are all competitive in some way. Your casual games are usually you're competing mostly with yourself for
yes,
points and for badges and rewards. But when you're playing in perhaps a team-based game, there's most definitely coordination involved, and there is skill involved, and there is competition involved because you're playing against other people or team versus team. Um, One can always take it casually, whereby it doesn't matter if I win or lose. Hey
yep.
guys, we played. That's all. It's participating. I have fun with my friends, and it's just good to hang around with you guys and girls. So, it's there are always levels in competition, as with anything. Um, any game is by nature competitive. Any game is by nature competitive, whether it's with yourself or against other people. Um, so
So
yes,
if
you'll
we
have
if
casual
we
leagues and so on. Yeah.
if if we then think of what you were saying about schools, where do schools even start to get involved in electronic sport?
Well, the most important thing, and this kind of comes down to some of the learnings within anything, I think, like Intel and education and so on, when I was working with schools, was that we need to find what we call then a champion teacher. You need to find your
Yeah,
champion, whether it's either from your student representative council and or your head of department or your principal or any willing teacher for that matter. Um, from there, it's quite simple. You just need to find out who's interested. You can do that via a WhatsApp group. There are platforms that you can join, one of which I'll show you. That I have one of my own platforms which I've built specifically for, well, primarily I built it with the intention of this is to build out the education esports sector so that it makes it easy, viable, and safe
so do
for
you want
for
to
kids
show
and parents.
us, do you want to show
Love
us
to.
that, and let's talk about that?
Yes, great. So
So,
essentially,
so if schools want to participate, do they get hold of you? How
of
does it
course,
work?
so there's a number of ways. Yes, hopefully after this they can also add me on LinkedIn. There are a number of email addresses, WhatsApp numbers. There's Discord channels, which I'll take everyone through quite shortly. All the information is on the website, and there's always going to be someone on the other side to respond. So
Great. We're
essentially,
looking at your screen.
so it's quite simple, electronicsport.africa. So that is the URL. So it's not .co.za, it's .africa. Why .africa is because we cater for esports across Africa, not just in South Africa. So once you want to get started, you can just click on get started. You put in your username, which could be anything you want, and then your email address. From there, you get an email, and it's your basic registration process like Facebook or any other kind of online social platform.
So would a
So
teacher then could do that for their school, or is this what you're showing us now, individuals?
yeah, so everyone registers first individually. So before you start a group on Facebook, you first need to start your own profile on Facebook, right?
Okay.
And then you can start groups, and then you can start events and all of those other things,
So
much like
what
any
happens
social.
about safety and age groups for children? So if you've got really young children and you're hopping in, so how does that work on the platform?
Great question. We have a over 16, so anyone under 16, the parent has to sign up on their behalf.
Okay.
Once you're 16 and over, you can then sign up with your own email address.
So
Yeah, so we have.
could schools get permission from parents, and the teacher could then register children if parents have given permission? So could you do something like
No,
that as part of a club?
not really, because when you create an object, when it comes to the back end code, when you register yourself, you then become an object, and then the information you start putting against that object then fills up. So essentially, we've built it with the idea that you need to manage your own username and password. So we don't want someone else to bulk
Yep,
upload,
that
and you
makes
need to,
sense.
and then it's like, hey teacher, I forgot my password, and then the teacher has to go and figure it out. So we haven't built it for that purpose at all.
So, do
Okay.
you have letters and things that teachers could share with parents about information and encouraging them to sign up and what the safety things are? Are there things like that on the website that teachers could find, or could they get them from you?
Yes, they can get it from us. We have a number of different information portals. So once you've registered and signed in, we do have a parent zone, which will
Oh,
then take you
great.
to. So here's for parents. This could be for teachers as well. So we've created an online Facebook group called United Parents of Gamers. So this is an information portal where basically we share tips and tricks. And if other parents are they have a 7-year-old and they're looking for another 7-year-old to play with, it becomes an easy way to communicate for parents to find for their younger kids to do
Oh,
that.
great. Okay.
So there's a Facebook page. We also have a forum, so you can always start a discussion. Anything in terms of support will take you to our Discord channel. So essentially, it'll open up Discord and it'll take you to Discord. It'll automatically download, or it'll run it via the web base. This is like yeah, it's an amazing communication tool. It's probably the biggest communication tool for gamers, or the most popular at least.
Okay.
And then we have also our terms of service. So if you want to find out about our anything to do with relation to our Poppy Act, which we are compliant of, our terms of service, where we obviously have a very, very robust one, which you have to sign up on and accept upon registration as soon as you sign in. Um, and then we also have a learning section where we've set up a Moodle whereby we've started to create courses for parents.
Oh,
For example, we have a child online protection and gaming for parents. So it's about a 1 to 1.5 hour course where parents can take themselves through. I wouldn't say the most exciting journey. I mean, it's never exciting learning via PowerPoint and all of that, but we've tried to do it as pretty well as we can. We've used real voices to instruct, and it's basically just a great way for you to get a little bit more information for yourself without having to search Google for this and that and whatever else. So we've kind of put the most important parts here.
so if a parent then registers their child, can the child then get into the Facebook and all the links, or because of the age restriction, are there fewer tabs for a younger child?
No, so they have access to everything. They will just not be able to change things in their profile. Anything that they do, any tournament that they enter, anything that they literally, or if they create a team, if they update their profile, if they create a tournament, if they join a tournament, if they create an organization or a team, the parent gets notified because it always goes through your email system. Once you've created anything, it then sends, and if anyone sends you an inbox message via our platform, it then gets relayed back to obviously our inbox section, as well as doubles up on email.
Okay.
So the parent will be able to see anything that they do.
So then you spoke about inter-school competitions or even within school competitions. How does that
Yes.
work? Is that on this platform or is that somewhere else?
Well, there are some others that are doing high school esports leagues. Not so much for the primary school. I know that Curo have just started up their own esports league. I have a great partnership with a brand new private school group called Centennial Schools. I'll show a few pictures there. That's pretty wonderful. So any parents that are looking to give their kids probably one of the best opportunities that they could ever experience in education, it will be one of these schools. Um, I'll show you some pictures later from it. So basically, yeah, I mean, we're starting up a high school esports league in April. We're working around the next term, so you can expect to see something soon in terms of our advertising and registration process for that.
And
Games
then
will obviously have,
what kind
yeah.
of games would be involved in those competitions?
Oh, there are many. There's Fall Guys. We have Rocket League for mobile as well, called Sideswipe. There's Counter-Strike for the older kids. There's Dota 2. There's League of Legends. Um, There's Clash Royale, which is another mobile game, and it's free to play. Yeah, there's many, but obviously it'll all be age appropriate. So the reason why when you register, we create age specific
Great.
limitations on our
Yes.
tournaments. So we can say the minimum age is 13 and the maximum age is 17. Or for Counter Strike, the minimum age is 17 and the maximum age is 18. So we have that control when we create the tournaments, and we don't really buckle or bend past any of those sort of frameworks there. We want to make sure we don't, yeah, make
So
any
I mean,
parents
that's
angry.
another safety measure you've got. When you sign up as a parent, you know that your child won't be able to go and play an inappropriate age game. They'll be playing with children of a similar age.
Correct, yes. So if I had to show you here, this is an example of, if you go to my screen share, here is an example of the kind of settings. So once this is an example of a tournament that I've created. Under the advanced settings here, I can set the player minimum age 13. I could even make it whatever, 11, 12, what you name it, or
Mm-hmm.
maximum age. This is for 14. So this tournament is only for 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds. Which country? Obviously, we can then select South Africa. Which region? Any region. If you want to have your own regional tournament, so this is, I know I might be jumping here, but this is
Yeah.
how we control from the back end settings. If you are the
Ah,
creator of a tournament, and here's the beauty of it, is that from the get-go, I created this platform with the idea of giving power to the user, and or I like to say power to the people, but it sounds a little cliche, but literally giving power to the people to create their own tournaments.
so a school could create a tournament within their school and only for their school.
Correct, and only for their school students, yes. They could go as
Ah,
far as also opening it up to an invite only. So as long as the other schools are registered, for example, if I had to go here, we go to link organizations. As long as the
yes.
school is registered, you can then link certain organizations that have that particular game or team for them. So you can then go, there's Curo Bloemfontein Drone Club, Paul's Girl High, I mean, there's
Yeah, so
Centennial Schools
that's
Group,
really great.
and then you
So
submit, yeah, and invite only the schools that you want.
the teacher who would come onto the platform would set up the school, and would
Correct.
then be the owner to be able to create the tournaments and things. Can the
Mm.
children themselves even create tournaments? So even the little children? And
Sure, they
if
can. Yeah.
so, can they alter ages and things within that space? So how are children protected if they're creating games and they're inviting people?
So right now we're going to cross that bridge when we get there. Until we get there, we have an instant switch on and switch off solution for that. Essentially,
Okay.
what we're trying to do is open it up to as many people as possible within the age groups. For them to create tournaments, you have to be a verified user. So to answer your
Okay.
question, so to be
Okay.
verified, you need to have the verified age, which gives you a certain level, and then only that level person are able to then create tournaments.
Okay. Okay. So it is
Okay,
limited. It's not
it is
anybody.
no.
Okay. That's really
Right,
great.
right, right now it is just FYI, but it's we doing that just for testing purposes right now. We haven't seen anyone under the age of 14, 14 register,
Okay.
and no one's creating tournaments. So on that side, or at that age group at least, there's no one.
I
Um,
taught some little boys a few years ago who I'm sure if they had this opportunity, they would have created some tournaments. They were so into their gaming. If
yeah, like,
yeah,
no, no, go ahead.
if you then so if you have to give teachers like step on step what they need to do, so
Mm,
what do they need to do to get to this verified stage, to get to the space where they can register their schools? Um,
okay.
yeah.
So
So how do they
once
do
you've
that?
once you've signed in, you'll have your profile, and then you can obviously update your profile. From here, you'll get I think I'm already a verified, so in order to verify yourself, there will be a click here to verify. So if you want to verify yourself, it then takes you through a step-by-step process to upload your ID as well as holding a selfie with your ID. If you're registering your child, you have to have a selfie with your child to prove that it is you with your ID with your child.
Oh wow.
and then we
That's
manually
great.
verify. We are looking to a new artificial intelligence solution so that we can take out the manual process of doing that, which is currently being tested, I think, this week. And we should be rolling out perhaps in the next 6 to 8 weeks, depending on if the tests are successful. So once you've got your profile set up, it's everything from all your normal player data, like where you are. You can see I'm still registered under Western Cape. I am no longer there. Activity, what are you a member of? What teams have you joined? What tournaments are you currently playing in? Tournament history, I haven't played in any tournaments. I've only created tournaments. What accounts do you have from your social media accounts, from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook? You can add more if you have more. There's LinkedIn. I actually haven't put my LinkedIn profile there, but I will. All your different gaming profiles. As well as if you're a streamer, this is a great thing as well. You can put your streaming profile here too. We've also added in a cool little follow feature so you can get followers and you can follow others. So when it comes to sending out messages to your followers, you're able to communicate with all of them to say, hey guys, we've got a tournament, it's the finals, here's the link to the live stream. The match starts at 7 or 8 o'clock, so they can communicate with their followers.
So I'm gonna ask you, I suppose, a difficult question. So if we go again back to our primary school children, where Twitter and those things are age restricted 13, do those buttons not come up for those kids?
Correct.
Or how does that?
No, it does.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
it's going to be under the parents' control.
Okay.
So anything that they add, anything that they want to change, it has to be the parents.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay. So once you've got your profile going, and you can see the little level badge here that you've got, the higher it is, that just means the more you've completed and processed and the more accessibility you will have with future, one of them being the tournament creation tool. So once you're ready to create a tournament,
so how do you get to those spaces? How do you get the badges as a teacher?
They go automatically. You update your profile, you verify yourself.
Okay. So it's not actually learning to play games or things like that. It's part of
There's some gamification elements coming, but that's not to do with the verification.
Okay, great.
With the gamification.
Okay.
So step 1 is obviously you've got to register, sign up, fill out your profile. Step 2 is as a teacher, you click on create organization. We have an action bar. It's always on every screen. So we have an action bar where you can create your own organization name, the tag. So normally if it's like I went to Northcliffe High School, that would be NHS. So you can have a short abbreviation.
Okay.
What type of thing is it? It is a school. Description, you can put your description, the logo, cover image. Now you can put your school logo there, or the background image of your school, or your front hall, or whatever. You can even create and design your own. I would also encourage schools to even create their own logo, and that is their esports kind of mascot or that logo. Are you recruiting new players? This kind of just this is mainly there for everyone, for schools or not. Are you recruiting new players? Some schools can just say no, and it's by invite only. Do you want to have your organization visible or hidden? That's just for some people. They want to just keep it private and it's only for their students. That's up to you. Click create organization. Once you've created, we had a nice proof of concept with Afis, Afrikaans Hoërseun School. So essentially, this is kind of what they did. They've got their background hall with their school logo here. Here, I'm not an admin on this, so I don't have all the features and functionality, but I'll show you an example.
That's
so essentially,
great.
about the school, another great thing is that we have a subscriber and credit system. So this is something that we can discuss with the school. So if the schools want to turn this into an additional revenue stream, because I know that some schools are struggling to figure out, well, how do we make more money without upping our fees? So this is a great way, and this is in fact what Afis was intending to do with esports. This happened just before the pandemic. I think you can see here they were created somewhere in 2019, and then obviously the pandemic hit. So you can see we have a whole bunch of members here. These are a whole bunch of students. Now, normally, if I was the owner of this organization, I would have a whole bunch of features here, which I'll actually show you momentarily, where the teacher or the owner can then start changing who the VPs, who a member is, who the coach is, who the players are, if they're a captain, vice captain, that sort of thing, or a reserve. When it comes to groups, normally schools they go by usually the age groups. So you
Yeah.
can always create multiple. I can't create here, but you can create under 14, 15, 16, first team, second team, third team. You can create as many groups as you want. And then you can have all your different teams within those age groups as you would any traditional sport. Under 14 rugby, under 14A, under 14B, under 14C rugby, netball, tennis, soccer, all those different sports. So that would all fall under the under 14 group. And then you can have a group manager for that specific. So when you go to the members here, I actually want to show you an example of an organization. Open. And then obviously you can get a teams overview where you can manage the teams and then the activity if they're playing in any tournaments. Here we have easy sharing links so that you can share across WhatsApp, SMS, Facebook, email, you name it. So you can then create, or you can just copy paste the link over here for Afis, and then you can share that.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So I mean, there are lots of ways that you can tell people about it, easy access for your students to get it, if
Yeah,
that's the way you've set it up, for
we
them
link
to
the
then
official,
register.
correct, and we link the official website too. I mean, so when you're in the school, so I'll show you an example of organizations like here's Africa Electronic Sport Association. Here's just an idea. So when you're a member, you can now start as the organization owner. You can give the privileges to certain people who are the VPs, managers, members, set role. Are they a manager of a specific team, or they're a player of a specific team, and then you can add them to the team. For subscribers, if the school wants to start charging whatever 50 Rand a month to be part of the school team, you can then say, well, you've paid either a 1 month or a 3 month subscription. All transactions are recorded via the transaction tab, so you can see Johnny or Ake or whoever has paid their subscription. Cool, they paid 50 Rand, they get a 1 month subscription, add subscription time.
Oh, wow.
Um,
That's
so
really
we've got
useful.
a really cool way here. Any pending members coming in, anyone that wants to join can say, well, I'm the owner of this, so if I wanted to create a new group, here's the create a group. So we can create a new group, whatever we want. Creating new teams, we can create as many teams as we want, and then we can put those specific teams into the specific groups wherever they belong. Um, and then the
So
settings of the organization.
you could do some really nice things around that with school, because you could have some games and activities that are age specific, and then you
Yeah,
might have other games that are not age specific but interest specific. So
yeah,
you could develop all sorts of discussion forums and debates within that space. You could get into a really great discussions around internet safety and cyberbullying and all of those kinds of things by doing this in-house and keeping it closed, and actually getting people to express their views and how do you behave online and what's the etiquette, and so that
that's
when
it.
they go out into the big wide world, they've actually learned some of the norms around how to behave responsibly within an e-learning, I mean, an electronic sporting platform.
Of course, yeah, you can open it up to as much as you want through our forums. You can start creating your own groups and discussion forums around that. Um, I mean, we could run a rugby tournament or a tennis tournament on this platform. We just obviously haven't put in rugby or tennis, but I mean, we could go that route if we wanted to. I mean, we were having some discussions with another potential client that was wanting to use the platform for their own traditional sporting needs, to start running all their rugby fixtures and matches and tournaments via the app. Um, I mean, as I was saying, and this is very important, and I want to harp on this quickly, Karen, is when I talk esports, um, I don't just talk about gaming. I talk robotics, I talk drone racing, I talk sim racing,
Nice.
and I talk chess. So I think I'm one of the few or only platforms, definitely the only platform here locally, and perhaps I would even go as far as to say one of the only platforms in the world that actually put all of these e-sports under one banner of
Oh,
esports
okay.
when it comes to competitive robotics. So, I mean, you can take a look. We've partnered with the World Robotic Olympiad, South Africa. They have about 2,500 students that work with Lego based. So here we've got all of their different categories here. So I've partnered with Care for Education and Hands-on Tech, where they normally did this via an Excel spreadsheet. They
Yep.
we're now going to be running the competitions and the scoring on this platform.
Wow.
Um,
So
the
Kyra is asking, are there any particular places where educational games are recommended for teachers or parents? What is suitable for a particular age? So you're talking about all of these great games. Is there a space where teachers who don't know much about gaming can go and look and see what are great games that they could start introducing? Thanks,
Sure. Well, we
Kyra.
have a thanks, Kyra. So we have games over here. So on our action menu, you can click on games and then it'll show you a whole bunch of games. If there are games that perhaps you know of or that you've perhaps stumbled on the internet and you see that it might be working really well in other schools or other territories around the world and you want to implement it as part of your own curriculum and so on, you can always speak to us to say, hey, Ryan, can we add this game? It's one thing adding the game, but
Mm.
then to to put it into a competitive aspect where it's an e-sport, like for
Yep.
example, how do you one Candy Crush? How do I play against you in Candy Crush? Well, the way that the game or the scoring, it's based on score, it's based on points.
Yep.
Once you finish a level, you go up levels. There's no real way to really compete one-on-one against each other. So certain games can't really be they gamified, but they're not competified, if that's such a word.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I
So
mean?
yes, yes. So I mean, you can have a
So here we
score and you can have a running total, but you're not actually playing against somebody. You're playing against yourself, and then it's
it,
whether you can actually better your own score to improve others. Cheryl is
my
just making a comment here, which I think you touched on just now. She was saying this is a whole new culture that we need to include in our digital learning curriculum. And I definitely agree that it's something we should include. One, it's playing the games, but the gaming industry is such a huge one globally that we should be exposing our children, one, to developing games, to becoming reviewers of games, to
yeah,
understand what gaming's about. There are so many different aspects. And if we're doing digital, we shouldn't be excluding it. And if we can turn our lessons into a more of a gamification process. Imagine if this was how we were generating our reports. That could be another whole way of looking at how we're doing school. So great point, Cheryl. I don't know if you want
very
to
good.
add, Ryan.
I mean, there are things happening when you're watching someone playing games. If you have a child that plays games and you're sitting looking at them like, what benefit are they getting out of it? Look, let me tell you that there are things happening um, between those ears and that brain that you can't even comprehend. From hand-eye coordination to shape
Yep.
recognition, from
Yes.
your computational thinking skills, your strategic thinking skills, your social development skills, because it's no longer back in 20, 30 years ago where it was just me and the big old screen playing games like this. It's now you are now having to interact with, because most games now are all multiplayer. It involves multiple people. So it's no longer just a little hermit sort of thing to do anymore. So there are major developmental skills that are happening, and there's a list. If you had to go to the Africa Electronic Sport Association's website, which is a-esa.org, or if you just Google Africa Electronic Sport Association, you'll find a whole bunch of information over here around
Yes.
what are the benefits, why do this, and so on. We have amazing resources. For example, we have some documents here. We have an amazing 54-page that you can download around the benefits. It talks about not just the benefits, but also the scary things about esports, like addiction and time lost and all of that kind of thing. And there's so much that you can get from this, and we put it into more of a South African context. Unfortunately, I'd like to look at into Africa, but all our information is based on this. So if you want to have a good read and understand around everything gaming, esports, from the good to the bad to the how how do you understand this? Where do you start? If you don't know anything about it, where do you start? This document right here is a really good place to start. We put a lot of time and effort into this. It's all referenced, so we're not just sucking our thumbs with all the information.
Yeah.
So have a good read, and it should answer a lot of questions.
So Ryan, we've had a fantastic chat this evening. So as we end off, what are the
Yes.
things that you want to say to teachers in terms of what would their next steps be if they wanted to introduce this? What would you say are the things that you want to leave with people to really get more involved, get their schools more involved?
Look, it's coming whether you like it or not. That's one thing to understand and to know. The earlier you can embrace it, the better. Just like technology going from paper to paperless, the technology is coming. You are now marking and you're doing your assessments and your pedagogical training and your CETA accreditations and all of that all online. Everything is going digital. So the sooner you can embrace it, the better. The difference is that I suppose with many of the digital education transformation projects that have been happening, there hasn't been much training or transfer of knowledge, for that, or professional development, as we call it. I'm
Yeah.
here to help you with your professional development as a teacher to introduce esports, or if you are already doing esports in your school, how do we take it to the next step? Are you just doing games? Well, what about robotics? What about drones? What about online chess? What about sim racing? What about competitive hackathons and coding hackathons? What about that? That's coming, by the way. So we have got that, but that's coming. I think going a competitive coding route is still too fresh for people to understand or to think, how is that an esport? It's going to be an esport. So competitive coding is going to be something
Yes.
under that banner. So that's where you start. So I'm here, my team is here. There are other stakeholders. Some of them are my competitors, but they're all doing great jobs, and their hearts are in the right places to build up this industry. So essentially, we need to support each other. So whatever you find easiest and wherever the information is, the most accessible, go that route. I'm here. There are many people out there, but I think the best way to start is our information source over here on Africa Electronic Sport Association's website. You can go to electronicsport.africa. And then the last thing that I have to mention, Karen, I think I mentioned, is then the esports shop. So once you've got your team, it's kind of like starting and I always use this analogy. It's like I was working with UCT some time back in 2019, and I was like, you want to start esports, but you don't even have a lab. You don't even have gaming equipment accessible to the students. So it's kind of like, we're going to start rugby at our school, but you don't have a rugby field. Or you're going to start tennis, but you don't have a tennis court. You need to have the best way. You don't have to. You don't have to, because the beauty is the kids can practice at home on their home computers. Yeah. But then what about the kids that don't have computers? So the best way is to figure out, how do we get the school to equip themselves and give accessibility to the kids? Because the great thing about schools is that they already have the brick and mortar, the security, the working staff, the connectivity, decent connectivity, some of them. They have running water and electricity and so on. So it's a perfect little incubation hub for, as long as some technology is put down or refreshed in your lab, we can set you up, and then you can start, even if you start off with 5 computers. And it doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg. At least start somewhere, and then you at least have a space that you can call your own, and that is your esports club's venue or practice ground or arena. I'd like to show you something. So this is I've got an online shop. So it is called Esports Shop. Very easy to remember, esportshop.co.za. Here we have a bunch of equipment. Anything that is not listed here, you can always ask us for a comparative quote. We can produce for you. We have a great partnership with Asus. So we have most of our gaming laptops and desktops are Asus. We do have other peripherals, from monitors, headphones, keyboards, mouse, and anything from home, student, parents, professional. So we have any home laptops, student laptops, professional gaming laptops. We go as far as, I told you about Centennial Schools, which is a new private school group that's just started. We are now running their own esports shop at centennial.esportshop.co.za, where we've managed to now get parents the best pricing we could possibly get with a free 3-year warranty attached to it. So we have, at least I have the ability from my Intel days to have the conversation around, well, what is important to the parent? What kind of devices are important for learning?
Yep.
I'm not just going to put something there for the sake of selling it. If it doesn't work, it's not going to work. So that's one thing. So that is our esports shop. We have a number of partners. If you do feel like you might want to be a partner or a partner school, we would welcome that. That's the shop side. And then I wanted to show you some photos. This is one of my most exciting things. I'm going to share my screen. Am I sharing my screen, Karen?
Yep.
No.
Yep. We can see.
Am I? So this is, and I'm sorry for all the other schools out there that are seeing another school out there that's kind of taking the lead with certain things, but someone's got to do it. So this is one of my clients, Centennial Schools. Absolutely amazing people that are heading this up. I managed to get in here where I was their kind of esports go-to guy to help them design and put together the equipment for this school.
Wonderful.
So they have an amazing 30 PC with 10 desktops PC sponsored by Asus for their competitive arena. They've got sim racing. So here it's all state-of-the-art equipment. Schools we'll be through the high school esports league. Centennial Schools will be our champion school, so we're planning to host a lot of our championships and finals and quarterfinals and so on at the school. As you can see here, they've got the latest equipment for sim racing, so we'll be running sim racing leagues for schools, and this is it pretty much in a nutshell.
Those
So
are really beautiful.
That's what I've been busy with for the past while now.
That's really, really beautiful. So then let's get back to what I said just now. So to end off, tell everybody quickly, where do they find you for them to begin? Is it LinkedIn? Is there another space?
LinkedIn is always great. You can always find me LinkedIn. So Ryan Macquet, there's my name and surname. Please add me. That'll be fun. And then we can always start a conversation, take it by email, take it by phone. The second address would be AESA for Africa, Electronic Sport Association.org. You can find more information there. Please register on electronicsport.africa. Once you've registered, you can then create your profile, create your organization, and start creating your own tournaments. I'll be happy to take a step further by I'm going to be creating a webinar, almost a demo version webinar, which I'll be putting up on YouTube so that anyone that wants to know how to, you can. But we do have how-to guides for everything over here. So on our guide section, it's how to register, how to create a team, how to join a tournament, how to create an organization.
Oh, wow.
So it's all
really
there
great.
for you. Okay. So please, those sites, esportshop.co.za. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Thanks.
Where there's a will, there's a way. I'm there.
This is really exciting. So thanks for sharing with us, Ryan. And hopefully, if you come back in a year's time, we'll have a whole lot of schools and you would have had a whole lot of tournaments and we can share about new upcoming things. So this is really, really great. So I just want to say thank you for sharing. Thank you for your excitement and your real passion for it. And those school pictures that you got are just incredible. If more schools could have centers like that. Yeah, it's amazing.
Very proud. Not everyone can. It does cost quite a bit of money, but we can always start small. There's a place to start. It's always.
Exactly. Yeah, so thanks very much. I'm going to say to everyone, thank you for joining this evening. Thank you for your comments. I'm going to end the session. Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Good night. Bye-bye.